Greetings, friends. Welcome to an episode of Black Metal and Brews in which we discuss not the 10 best records necessarily, or demos, or what have you, of 2015, but 10 that I enjoyed enough to feel like including in a video when my mental faculties aren't all as present as I would like for them to be. Today is February 16th, 2016. I've taken my time getting this done. If you read the website rather than just visiting with these videos, I've been undergoing some interesting new health adventures. Tomorrow, I'm undergoing a procedure, a colonoscopy, to figure out what's going on with my body. So today I'm on a clear liquid diet, which doesn't include vodka, but does include coffee. So got coffee, water, jug of ginger ale, and some veggie broth in the kitchen. But I thought, since I'm at home with basically nothing I can do with myself today, why not talk about music that is awesome? So, we've got a list of 10 records that I really enjoyed, and I'm here to talk with you about them. I hope that you may enjoy them or find something you'll enjoy. There's a much longer post about the health stuff, just in written form on blackmetalandbrews.com if you're into that sort of thing. I've had some concerns. I'm not drinking alcohol right now because of that. I'm not really missing too much there, but we will collectively find out, and hopefully in the next couple days I'll have some good news for you or something, or for myself at least. So, and keeping with the way things have always been done at Black Metal and Brews, I'm going to just, have a little bit black metal, a little bit of stuff that's not black metal, because that's how we roll here. I've got a list here all written up and printed on my doctor's notes, because I didn't know what else I was going to do with these, but, on the things where they're telling me what to eat and when. So, 10 albums that didn't suck at all in 2015. First off, we've got, and I'm not even reading this in order. I'm just kind of ad-libbing it because I wanted to make a video. First off, we're gonna go with one of the probably the more obvious ones that I think a lot of you knew I was gonna include, or maybe you didn't. Which is False's Untitled full-length LP. False have been one of those bands that I've loved that band since the first moment I saw them. Just absolutely blew me away when I caught them live. It was one of those scenarios where I wasn't even there to see them. I was there to see the band Thou that they were on tour with. It was in 2011 maybe. And I found myself, not losing interest in Thou in any way, but I found myself being the guy that goes to the booth for False and buys one of everything. I was just so enthralled, so captivated. And, while their first EP was absolutely magnificent, while their contribution to their split with Barghest is one of the coolest songs I've ever heard, the Untitled record, which everything they've done is untitled, but the 2015 Untitled release is far and away just one of those things that really just hit me on a deep and intense level. I saw them live this summer, and they played just a 2-song set, which is not atypical for them, just consisting of the opening track and then the closing track. So Saturnalia and Hedgecraft, and it was just the most devastating, huge feeling. I hadn't seen them live in years, and they'd stepped it up even, which obviously I figured they would be able to, but it was still really astonishing. I had such a wonderful time, and it was easily one of the coolest things I've experienced. I've seen a lot of bands a lot of times, and probably not as many as some of you, but I am sometimes that jaded concert guy who just wants to sit on a couch or something, doesn't want to rock out, but I had to be front and center for False, and they made it worth my while, and I would follow them on the road if I had the kind of money to do that sort of a thing. So I'm going to cross that off my list so I don't talk about them twice, not that I think I'll forget. After that, I think it's worth mentioning that, since we're in the Fs, Faith No More. I know a lot of you are probably gonna, scoff or roll your eyes. But I really enjoyed Soul Invictus, their newest release. It doesn't necessarily feel like they're treading a hell of a lot of new territory for Faith No More as a band, considering the monumental length of their absence. But I don't know if I would have wanted them to put out something totally off the wall. I mean, for all of the members involved, it's one of the most straightforward projects they're in. It was just really pleasant to have an album of just great songs that feel like it was like revisiting with old friends, which is hopefully how it felt for them. There are certainly cuts that feel like they could have been on, anywhere between Angel Dust and Album of the Year. I for one loved the single Motherfucker, which I think a lot of people really didn't like, but it totally made me think of Strip Search, which, if you're a Faith No More fan, you get it, and if you're not, fast forward about another 45 seconds. It just, I think that Faith No More's most strong and compelling moments are songs like Sunny Side Up or Matador, where they kind of either just play or are clearly getting ambitious and strange. I like strange. I'm sure you're shocked to find that out at this point, but I was really actually expecting to be disappointed. A lot of bands I love come back and just fuck everything up. I haven't even made it through a complete listen of either Carcass or At the Gates reunion albums. I'm sure they're fine, just like Faith No More's album is fine, but more often than not, I can't bring myself to. It hurts. Soul Invictus, I was thrilled by, and I'm still thrilled by it. So that's a great feeling. Welcome back, Black Metal Warriors. We are here now to talk about Veiled with Omniscient Veil, one of the most out of nowhere, just fascinating cassettes for me. I believe Ironbone had put it out. My memory isn't as amazing as I'd like for it to be right now. When you're living off nothing but liquid, or maybe you don't. And if you don't know, I hope you never have to find out. But if you do, I hope you're well. Omniscient Veil is just 4 tracks of just. It looks like it's going to be the ugliest fucking thing in the world, but there's so much layered beauty and density, and it's everything I like in my rawer black metal. I know they're working on new stuff right now, and goodness, I'm so beyond excited to hear what will come next from Veiled, because really, really incredible group. Oh my gosh. Born out of the ashes of Gnosis the Witch, I must say. But regardless of that association, it stands on its own, and it's more my speed, not that I had any dislike for their former project. Moving right along, we've got Captive with Black Leather Glove. Surprisingly timeless sounding. Oh, I don't know if it's surprising. I hate that phrase, but I use it a lot. Sorry. Just classic, post-punk, gothy, synthy, new wavy stuff. Just, really, really magnificent record. You got, Rusty Kelly, A Total Abuse, Breathing Problem, Country Club, what have you. Just totally delivering the most kind of almost flamboyant, and that's not a bad thing, desperate, tortured, passionate, new romantic sort of vocals. It's really, really wonderful. Treading some strange middle ground that I didn't even know existed between like early 80s The Cure and most of the 80s New Order. There's something dark and predatory, but there's also a lightness and not necessarily in lyrical themes, but in sound, just, a more uplifting sort of synthesizer friendly thing, which shocking, I know. I love synthesizer music. Wow, look at me go using all my big words, my book speak, what have you. Crossing Captive off my list in my head because I don't want to pick up my pen because I'm lazy. A Forest of Stars, Beware the Sword You Cannot See. This is one that, again, I guess, if you're a purist in terms of, black metal and the like, it may not be as much your thing, but I love the all-out, just, I feel like it's a beast that's moving in 10 directions at once, and I'm really fascinated by the way A Forest of Stars really fuse things together. Earlier Forest of Stars releases were very tight and tense, and they felt like they were kind of reaching out, but just little bits at a time. And it was, I really came into it. I really loved it. Albums like A Shadow Play for Yesterday's, I felt were really ambitious, but sometimes fell under their own weight. It became almost too excessive. And I was really afraid that this record would fall to the same trap, but instead, somehow they made it bigger, made it more ambitious and strange, but also managed to make it cohesive. And I mean, in retrospect, too, they haven't had an album that was an outright clunker or anything, but some that were more good than great. This record, which I've talked about at length already, is absolutely phenomenal. And I keep finding myself coming back, especially to the track Vertical Invicta. Don't know why, but I have, and that's the truth, and there I am saying it. Oh, sorry, kid. Sorry, I had to pet the cat because I like the cat, and so do you, most of you. So coming off that, okay, I am getting confused, but I'm going to cross some names out. Look at me go, look at me go. I hope that this is as fun for you guys as it is for me. So we talked about Captive, it's no more. So, after that, wow, gosh. You know, sometimes it's really hard to brain. Thanks, guys. We're going to discuss one of those records that I won't shut up about, and I don't need to shut up about because this is my website, which is Forgive Yourself by the band Publicist UK. You notice that a lot of these that aren't black metal are being culled from my list of best experimental electronic albums or whatnot if you read the site. The reason I'm listing them twice in this video here is because a lot of you don't read the site, you just watch these videos. There's nothing wrong with that, obviously. I'm not casting judgment upon you. I may be casting a spell upon you, but it's too late for you to avoid that. Regardless, if you're a reader and a viewer, thanks for allowing me to double dip a bit. Publicist UK's Forgive Yourself is one of those records that by no means does it come across like the sort of thing that I would find myself listening to, let alone at great length. But here I am and here we are, and it's big, it's bombastic. I feel like the label did them a disservice in selling them as a members of type of band, and so we're not going to talk about their pedigree because this piece of art stands on its own. But I feel like every member of the band actually serves a pivotal role instead of it being one of those scenarios where, man, there's a really great guitarist and he's carrying everybody, or it's the rhythm section. It's one of those things where there's so much pain and tension, almost this regretful sensation that not a single component is carrying the narrative in an inappropriate fashion. Everything is just as it should be. It's more just kind of big bombastic rock and roll with a heavy helping of metal production, almost post-metal production, and very obvious nods to a lot of the goth rock and post-punk type stuff that I like. And I hate the term goth rock, but I don't even know what the hell else to call it, So, again, I'm very articulate today. So, crossing Publicist UK off the list. Then the next... Jesus, I feel like I'm somehow making mistakes here. It's whatever. I make mistakes all the time. The next thing we're going to discuss is I'm going to pause this for a second while I look at my notes. I'm having a harder time than I should be. Sorry. Alright, sorry about that. I know it was just a quick pause for you, but I realized I wrote a list of 9 albums and then a bunch of scratches. So I realized what the 10th album was going to be, and my own handwriting got so poor that I struggled with it for a minute there. So anyway, now that we've discussed the sheer size and scope of Publicist UK, Triumvirfal Unleashed, God, another overdone word. If you're a metal writer and you use the word unleashed, be very sparing in its use. Triumvirfal put out one of the stronger death metal albums I've heard in quite a long time. Death metal not being necessarily my preference or specialty, It used to be pretty much the only kind of heavy metal I listened to. And honestly, in a lot of ways, the sterilization of the genre became its own undoing for me, even though that was also, of course, my point of entry as a younger listener. Bands with crisper production like Cannibal Corpse and their ilk certainly did well for me in delving deep, but, having made my way through the more subterranean and just kind of fucked up stuff, it became harder to connect with a lot of newer releases, and and a lot of the stuff that was hitting the heavy underground felt very samey to me. I mean, sure, bands like Pseudogod and whatnot are okay, but they just, they didn't really leave something memorable for me personally. So when Triumvir Foul's debut came out, especially considering that the demo they put out prior was good, but not necessarily one of the better death metal releases I've heard. It was really, really remarkable how compelling and well-formed the release actually turned out to be. And it's the brevity of the songs is really refreshing for me in a genre where many bands will take a great idea and drag it on for 3 or 4 minutes longer than it needs to, just for the sake of making something big. Big is a feeling, it's not a length of time, and a lot of bands could really stand to learn from that. Because the fact that Triumvir Foul's album, called Triumvir Foul, is so short-lived, for the genre at least, is part of what makes it so potent. I don't feel myself running a marathon. I'm just like, okay, wow, that really hit home, and it completed. So that's magnificent. That's remarkable. Thanks, guys, for making a record that is pretty damn good. Next up, we're going to talk about one of those ones that's probably only on my end of your list and maybe not most others. That is Cape of Bats with Violent Occultism. This would probably be in the top 10 records of the year list for me, just regardless. It's one of those holy shit kind of albums where I really, when I hear phrases, I mean, again, I wrote a review of this and I feel like I'm repeating myself, but it's the truth. When I hear like really weird clashing phrases like death rock and punk and black metal, I'm not going to expect them to be well fused, because more often than not, a lot of good ideas aren't necessarily good in execution, and that's just the reality of life. But Cape of Bats just kicked me all around the place and left me with a smile. Really, a lot of really oddly warm and upbeat guitar riffs with the occasional keyboard line that mimics them, but it's also just kind of go for the throat sort of ferocity, really strangely balanced, but in the most heartwarming way. I think I may have even mentioned in my actual review that given that like Nuit Noire is one of my favorite bands on earth, any time I can get that sort of gothy post-punky stuff to fuse well with black metal in any way, I'm going to love it. It just works so well for me. Just, I can't recommend it highly enough. The tape's out on Broken Limbs. I think it's still in stock, which is both nice for you if it still is, and a shame because that should have sold out immediately. Next 2 records are the last 2 we'll discuss today, and they're also 2 that are easily some of the best of the year, would have been regardless if these weren't just 10 I picked. I don't know how to pronounce it. Tal Sounds, Tal Sounds. Regardless, it's Natalie from Goodwill Smith performing solo. The record is called Medium Strong, and it's I've touched on it now in an interviewer list in my most recent piece of writing on my health, and to a lot of people just in direct conversation, it's one of those records that it's not a record, it's a cassette tape. It is sold out from the label, which is Bookend Recordings, run by the ever dear to me Tanner Garza. It's just 2 tracks, each about 10 minutes in length. They're so meditative, especially the A side, Awake. I've been taking a lot of baths because when you're kind of in pain and your brain is so turned on, it's nice to force yourself to just do nothing. Just put your hands beneath the water so you can't fiddle. If you're me, I used to take a bath, but I'd spend the whole time on the internet just being like, oh, I'm going to check my email, I'm going to write a blog post. and sometimes I need to do nothing. I need to relax. I need to turn off my brain, turn off my experience, and just go with it. Um, Medium Strong is one of those cassettes, one of those EPs that just, it absolutely hits every mark I would want for it to. There's enough motion in the sound to keep my brain engaged on it so that I'm not just turning it into background music, but it's also so soothing, so familiar. It's got this almost womb-like comfort to it, which, from what I've gathered, was also something the artist herself was trying to seek in the creation of it. And it's really, I believe it's either a cheap or free download online. It's really worth listening to on Bandcamp. If you need to decompress, it's a perfect album for it. And if you want just something beautiful, that's the thing. It also stands as a great piece of actual listening material. It's not just some sort of like coping mechanism. It's really a gorgeous little tape, and oh gosh, I couldn't say enough kind words about it. My hair is curling into my eye. You needed to know that. Finally, one of those kind of late entries to the list for a lot of us that seem to have crawled its way to the top of a lot of people's lists is, I can't pronounce this, Liturgia by Batushka. The Ruins of Beverist have been one of my favorite black metal bands since I heard them. And a lot of it was in just the sheer scope of their guitar tone, which I'm not a tone guy. I don't care about that. For some reason, there's a sound they hit that's perfect. Batushka touches that exact feeling for me. That big guitars, but they're not crisp and clean. They're just big, ominous. The liturgical chanting, or the almost the orthodoxy of the sound is overwhelming. It feels like some sort of ancient, just like, I couldn't put a time to this album. I couldn't put a sound to it. There's black metal, there's doom metal, there's all this hymnal sensation, but it's not any one thing, and it needs to be heard. But I love Eastern European black metal in general, and I don't really often like doomy things, but it's perfectly done here. I believe Batushka is the work of one person, which is impressive to me. Witching Hour Productions from Poland, who just put the record out, they've got this great deal right now or not a great deal, but the record is out. There's shirts and there's hoodies, and God, man, I wish I could buy them. You should if you have money, because holy cow, it's enough has been said by enough other writers, and I'm probably going to write about it myself at some length in my written piece to go with this. Anyway, this is well over 20 minutes now, and I thank you for watching me struggle through my cup of coffee and my own confusion. I'm uploading this today so that it's very timely. Tomorrow I'm going to go in, have my procedure done. We're going to find out what the hell's going on with me, for those of you who care about that stuff. And, if all is well, then I should be finishing up my actual written list of 50, ideally. Maybe it'll turn to 25 great black metal albums from 2015. I just want to thank you guys for taking the time to watch, for supporting. Please support the artists, because, while obviously I like your support, the reason we're doing this is to connect over music. And if you're not engaging with the artists, or if you're just trying to find ways to consume it for free, that's not as helpful in ensuring that more great art will be made. It sucks that that's the reality, but it is. So these 10 albums deserve your time. They deserve your financial support in some way. You're all just the best. And you know what? I will be back with another video for you very soon. Cheers.